It's the grandson of Right Thought. We talked about how the doors in the ark are closed. So for you elect, that means that it's time that you go no contact with the world. See, in this world, we're the light, the elect. We're the salt of the earth. You see? And if the world doesn't have its salt, then it's not going to be very savory. You see? And we're coming into that time now. And so the proof of why the world is coming into an unsavory time is obvious. The fact is, it's because the salt is removed. Which are you elect? You see? And how are you removed? By going no contact. That's literally what's going to happen with us in the world. We're going to go no contact. I mean, that's the remedy for how you deal with narcissists, right? You go no contact. Because a narcissist is toxic or unsavory. You see? If you were to put something unsavory in your mouth, it would taste toxic. Or if you were to put something toxic in your mouth, it would taste unsavory. You see? Narcissists are that way. And so, as Abba said, he was going to separate the two. He says, come out of her, my people. You see the connection? Taking the salt away. Taking the good thing away. That's you elect. And so it's time that you let each man work out his own salvation, because that's what's written. We as the elect, we've been laboring, trying to win souls for the kingdom, trying to be that example, to be the peacemaker, to be the one in the situation to forgive, to take that lick on your cheek and turn the other cheek. That was you. The ones around you weren't doing that. They weren't forgiving their enemies. They weren't forgiving when things were happening to them. They were very judgmental. But you were called to be the forgiving one. And so you've been. The one that has the hope. The one that has the faith in the situation. The one that has the love in the situation. That's you. You see? And see, now our faith and our hope have run its course with the world. And the only thing that remains is our love. We know that it would be unfruitful for us to have faith that they will change. And we know that it's unfruitful for us to hope that they will change. But we love them regardless. And that is the only thing that's left. And isn't that what's written in the scripture? These three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. And now you've experienced that in your own walk and in your own journey. But that's what you have to do at the end. You have to do it with your mother in some cases, for some of you. Some of it's with your father. Some of it's with your child. Some of you it's with your spouse. You've had to cut ties with them. Say, hey, I love you, man, but I'm going to have to let you go. I fought. I had faith that you'd change, and you just kept showing me. I had hope that you'd change, and you just kept showing me that you were unwilling. You're unwilling to change. You were reprobate, unchangeable in your ways. And see, that's the thing about recognizing the tares that are in your life. We wouldn't have been told that there were tares if there weren't any. You understand that? You wouldn't have been told that there was a difference between wheat and tares if there weren't any. And you also wouldn't be told what's going to happen to the tares and what's going to happen to the wheat if there wasn't any difference. because what's going to happen to them is indeed different. Now, what did Abba say he's going to do first? It said he's going to gather those tares to be burned first. Did y'all hear that, elect? And then he's going to gather you into his barn. So now's the time of separation. Read Ecclesiastes 3 and read what it says about the times and understand the times you're living in, because the master said that y'all can discern the face of the sky. You say the sky is red and lowering, so it's going to be this way tomorrow. This weather is going to be like this. Y'all can discern that, but y'all can't discern the times that you're living in. You can't discern the times you're living in. And what time do you think you're living in? A time to sow or a time to rend? What time do you think? Because when you read those times that Solomon is telling you about, you will see that it's just about war and peace, which is what he says. There's a time for war and a time for peace. So you can take all of the things that he says and put them in one of those two categories. So when we read about the time of refraining from embracing, a time to embrace and a time to refrain, well, do you think you refrain from embracing in the times of peace? Or do you think you refrain from embracing in the time of war? So the time you go no contact will be the time of war. Don't you see it? Excuse me. Don't you see it? So that's the time you're in, the time of no contact. The time of refraining from embracing. You see? The time of killing. The time of rending. The time of plucking up. That's all the same thing. And that's the time you are in if you can't discern it. If you can't discern that's the times you're in, do you think you're in the times of peace? The time of loving? The time of embracing? The time of sowing? Is that what you think? Then you don't know the time you're living in then. And so because Abba loves his elect, he's telling you now. So that you know, so that you're not caught unawares. You understand that? So in the times of war as the elect, it's time that you put your armor on, your helmet of salvation, your breastplate of righteousness, above all taking your shield of faith, that you may quench the fiery darts of your enemies. Gird about with the belt of truth, the sword of truth in your hand, your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel, so that you be prepared when you're on the battlefield. You know your armor, you know what you have on, and you are prepared. Because now is the time of war. Now is the time of separation. And if you find yourself being hanging on to anything in this 3D life, then you will find yourself in some sort of distress. You won't have peace. You have to give it all up for the kingdom's sake as elect. You have to give it all up. You may be right there next to a person, but inside of yourself, you are committed to your God and him first and foremost. So if he requires that you separate from that person, you are willing to do it at a moment's notice if he call you. See, that's the thing about when the Israelites were coming out of Egypt during the Passover. They were told to be prepared with their clothes on, their staff in their hand, their feet shod. with shoes on, as y'all say. Shoed. With their loins girt up because they didn't know what hour it would happen. Y'all hear me, Israel? They didn't know what hour it would happen. And in the middle of the night was the moment they were told to leave that bondage that they were in. In the middle of the night, they were called forth. Come out of her, my people, for I bring you into a new land flowing with milk and honey, in where righteousness dwells. My holy mountain where nothing offends shall come in and out of our gates. You hear that, Israel? Set your heart and mind on heavenly things, on true things, and let the temporal things go, and go no contact with these things, these so-called people. I say so-called because a tear ain't really a weed, is it? You follow? So that's all. It's time for no contact. So you don't want Israel out.